starting off was actually a trip around Southeast Asia, and I just saw the amount of rubbish that was out and about and really visual. And I think that was probably my catalyst for where I've now ended up. And so you've just got to believe in yourself that, I always say we spent about 6 months just doing science experiments. You never know what procurement officer's going to walk past either. I think we've got great minds that could definitely make it a lot greener than what it is. Then we just get stuck at, the big corporates that definitely don't want these sorts of changes happening because they'll feel it. In no way do I want anyone to purchase any more plastic than they absolutely need to. We can't recycle ourselves out of this mess, and it doesn't always work. There was many innovations that haven't worked. Word of mouth has been amazing for us, and so it's just continually growing from there, which is wonderful. Tried a few times on the lounge and then went, no, actually, I do believe in what I'm doing and in my product.
Usually I stuff up the intros every time. Or if you see my guests laughing at the beginnings, because I've stuffed it up. But yours is an easy name. But I have to say, like my name, Paul King, it can be a bit of a tongue twister. Like even though it's simple, and when I was trying to pronounce your name, Jess Hodge, you could sort of, Jess Hodge. You know what I mean? Like, do you find that?
Yes, I do. Especially when sometimes I'm trying to introduce myself to people.
Yeah.
And then I go, I do know my name. I promise.
Yeah, because you're going to say it slowly because, it's a bit of a tongue twister. But I remember once I was in some organisation and I was waiting for an interview or something. The person came around the corner and said, Paul King. And then all these other people came and looked. It was when Paul Keating was the Prime Minister.
Oh, brilliant. And you were just like, just waiting for my name.
Yeah, that's it. No, it's not me. It's just Paul King, not Paul Keating. Anyway, today's guest, Jess Hodge, is a passionate advocate for sustainability and environmental change. With a background in marketing, she founded Resourceful Living to tackle the plastic waste crisis head on. She's committed to changing the way we perceive and handle plastic waste, encouraging sustainable choices in everyday life. Welcome to the show, Jess.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you on, and I'm really interested to know more about the whole plastic recycling space. There's a lot of information out there about it, and some people say, it's wonderful, and others say it's not, but I know you're doing some amazing stuff in the space, but I'm sure that you'll clarify some of those things for us. But to kick things off, I'd like to know a bit about your background and how you got started in this whole recycling space.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So my starting off was actually a trip around Southeast Asia, and I just saw the amount of rubbish that was out and about and really visual. And I think that was probably my catalyst for where I've now ended up, because I grew up in Newcastle in New South Wales, and I spent like every single school holidays at Foster, which is also on the coast. I realised that waste, out of sight, out of mind. But then when you go to another country and you may see it in your face, you go, oh my goodness, this is really jarring. They don't put this on, any catalogues or beautiful images that you see. And so that's where I started my journey of saying, no, we can't let this happen in Australia, and we need people to do something about it.
Yeah, it definitely is a big problem. And I've seen some of those pictures in some of the beaches over in some of the countries like Thailand or Cambodia. And the people haven't got the resources there to do the recycling, I guess, no? And that would be a major issue, do you think? Like, why do you think it's so terrible over there? They're not a rich country, I guess, and here we've...
Yeah, definitely infrastructure, but then also developed countries sending their waste to those countries. So they've not only got their own waste, but then, other countries' waste as well. So it just quadruples. And
So when you say sending their own waste, what do you mean by that? It's like we've got a whole lot of waste and we, send it over there and they bury it or something, or are you just talking about more product?
So a lot of waste they've been trying to put in a ban, but still a lot of waste ends over up even from Australia at those sorts of countries. And so without the infrastructure or the ability to actually do something with it, they end up with just so much more than they should. And that's why I'm also a really big advocate for manufacturing and growing our recycling sector over here so that we can really tackle all the different waste streams and see what we can do with them.
Yeah, so, I mean, we use plastic in so many different things. And if we didn't have plastic, like, are there other types of things that we could use instead of plastic? Like, like a shampoo bottle, for example. Like, what else could you use? Like, if we weren't going to use plastics, is there something else we can use?
Well, I'm a very big advocate for like the shampoo bars, just like your soap bars. So my belief that I work with is that plastic has become so ridiculously cheap, and you can mold it into pretty much any shape that you want. So it's become the manufacturer's choice because, they're not spending too much on manufacturing, and then it can get sold at a cheaper rate. But I actually think that a lot of this has to come back to like product stewardship and actually look at the design, rather than just finding the cheapest option, actually looking at, okay, how can we design this better so that, it degrades or it doesn't use virgin material, not that, I can get that for 1 cent. Excellent.
Yeah, I mean, plastics have been around for about 50 years because I actually remember when I was a kid, my father knew somebody that had a plastics factory, and we did a tour of it with all these crazy
That would
machines.
have been so cool.
Yeah, and so that was give my age away here, 50 years ago or something. So I guess before that, we lived without them, right? So obviously we can, but I mean, they're here to stay now, really, aren't they? So I guess recycling is the best thing that we can do, and that's what your company does, right?
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
So in no way do I want anyone to purchase any more plastic than they absolutely need to. We can't recycle ourselves out of this mess. It's definitely just a portion of what can help. So I definitely want listeners, if you can swap to an alternative product, definitely. I do actually have enough feedstock.
You have a what, sorry?
Feedstock of plastic without people buying more thinking that we can recycle more, because then the flip side comes from it of when we first started taking products to market, we actually would get asked, does it smell like landfill? And so that education piece of, no, just because it's being recycled, it's not actually dirty.
Mm-hmm. So without getting into real technical detail, but what is the process of recycling? So how is it cleaned? Let's say is a yogurt container, for example, right? And does that just get chucked because it's got yogurt stuck on it? Does it have to be just clean things? And excuse my ignorance on this, I should know more about it, but
no, so everything that gets thrown into a yellow bin will actually go through a cleaning process. So definitely for our process, we need it mostly clean. So once it gets cleaned, it then gets sorted, and then it'll get shredded, and then that's when we can use it to manufacture into something new.
Okay. And so how long have you been going for now?
3 years now.
Okay. So you would have started during the pandemic, I guess, at the tail end?
Yes. COVID was an excellent time in my life where I decided that, starting a business is like having a baby. There's never a right time. And I was working for someone and thought, you know what? I'm going to do something that makes me want to jump out of bed in the morning and innovate and make change. And so I started this.
Right. So, So tell us about like when you started and how you started getting going and how you funded yourself. Did you go for investment or did you bootstrap? And how you've grown over these 3 years. Tell us about that journey and some of the problems you've had along the way, because this is the Fail Wisdom podcast, learning from failure.
Yes.
So let's hear that story.
We used my savings account. So the trip to Southeast Asia was a few years before the pandemic. And so I just ended up putting a lot of money away. So when decided to take the leap, my husband is actually a mechanical engineer, and together we built our machines from scratch.
Wow.
Because we couldn't find anything that we thought would do what we wanted on market. So I've never done that before, where tiny little pieces would just arrive at my house.
Wow. That's amazing.
And so then I got a 100 square meter factory, and I called it the Startup Factory. And it was a 2-year lease. And I said to myself that if after 2 years it's not working, I'm going to have to reevaluate, or if it is, awesome. So totally bootstrapped. So we just did, whatever we could kind of afford. And then one thing that I would say to people is if you've got a new product and wanting to take it to market, definitely head to those weekend markets. I was a bit, oh no, I don't want to go to one of them. But it was such an amazing experience. We did markets for a whole year when we started.
Yeah.
And it was a great way to talk with the public, find out market research, what they thought. So interestingly, when we first started, I said, everyone's going to want a full plastic table. And I was very wrong. And it was interesting that when we swapped out the legs to metal, but still had a recycled plastic top, they sold.
Oh.
Move on 2 years, and people have actually come around to the idea of a 100% plastic table. And one of the ways that we found that pushback was by going to, just the weekend markets. So,
well, look, that's brilliant, because one of the biggest issues that startup founders have is they don't do enough market research at the beginning. So that's like having a product like that, you're getting direct customer feedback about your product, and you're gathering that feedback and adjusting accordingly. So I think that's a great way to do market research with that particular type of product that you have, because people might think, oh yeah, the markets, but that's just brilliant. It's you could be calling up people and doing research in other ways, but that you're talking face to face to people, and you're actually seeing if they actually buy it. So I think that's the best type of research that you can have, and plus you're getting some traction, some income, I guess. No?
Yeah, and we met people from all backgrounds, and I think getting them in that situation where they were just out for a market look. Well, they were really happy to talk, whereas I think if I tried to cold call them, you get that, people can be a bit standoffish.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the hardest things you can do, cold calling.
Yeah, true.
I hope you're enjoying this episode, and if that's the case, I'd like to ask you one thing, and that is if you could subscribe or follow my channel. This helps me out tremendously to grow my channel and in turn help early stage startup founders on their difficult journey. you did the markets, and then you got feedback. You were selling some, so you did that for a year. And then what happened after a year? What did you do then?
So interestingly, the people, well, not interesting, it's just great. But the people that we met at the markets actually worked for bigger organizations. And so then we got projects to work with those bigger organizations. And 18 months into being a business, we actually had to move from our 100 square meters. And we got a 2,600 square meter place.
Wow.
And it has actually been those connections that we made that have just continued to come back. They tell people, word of mouth has been amazing for us. And so it's just continually growing from there, which is wonderful.
Yeah, that's amazing. So from the markets itself, you met other people there, and then you got projects from those people because they're, within large organizations that I guess need products like that. Or that's just brilliant.
Yes.
So it's all gone from word of mouth and bootstrapping yourself. Because I mean, let's face it. I mean, a lot of founders do this, but you're taking a big risk. I guess there'd be quite a bit of cash input. Getting a big factory like that, leasing it for 2 years, making the plastics machinery and all of that. So you took a big risk. Yeah.
And it doesn't always work. There was many innovations that haven't worked. I want to tell all founders that it's okay to have a little cry, but dust yourself off, get back up and keep going. I'll never forget this time that we did we said yes to probably a too big of order at where we were in our timeline. And it became very hard. They made lots of changes. We ended up doing the order, I think, a second time because they wanted color changes. And I remember thinking, what am I doing? What have I gotten myself into? Cried a few times on the lounge and then went, no, actually, I do believe in what I'm doing and in my product. And interestingly, I learned so much from that project that I now have contracts in place, send photos of all the colors and cuts and, get sign off on everything so that, people can't chop and change halfway through. But I have to say that sometimes those experiences that drop you to your knees, you learn so much more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I was actually going to say, what have you learned from that? So you've already said that, put proper contacts in place, and if people want to make changes, I guess, they got to pay for that. And would you also say choose your customers carefully as well? Don't just take on anybody just because they're going to pay. They should be a good fit as well. Would you say that?
So true. Oh, I couldn't agree with you more, Paul. So when I first started, I was like, yes, I'll take everything. And then I realized I was just burning myself out. And it was really crazy that the people that kept, the people that you find that are like, oh, can you just take $5 off? Or can you just throw in this for free? Or you don't want them, even if they are going to pay you some money. Yeah. Because then we get other clients that go, oh, that's a great price. And it's just so straightforward, and your target market is out there. I took ages to realize that, and really accepted myself that not everyone is my target market, because I was like, who doesn't want a table? But it's so true. Not everyone is your target market, and it is okay, but put your effort into those people that are really going to, excel your business, and find those people that are customers that'll also be your advocates. We get referrals now, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. There's nothing better than a referral. Yeah. Yeah, finding the right people, and sometimes the people that they might have just ordered something really small, or and then they can be the fussiest and cause the
Yes.
most issues as well. So finding, I guess the thing is to find your niche, the right niche of people or your target audience, and then concentrate on that, and then just don't take on anybody. I mean, it's easy to say, but like when we start with like any order or any customer is like, oh yes, and then
Yeah.
even when it comes to investing, I know you didn't invest, but it's like some people just go with any investor. Oh, I got an investment, and it could be totally the wrong person, and be a whole lot of issues later on. So it has to be a good fit. Yeah. All right. So you have a background in marketing, is that right?
Yes, that's correct. That's what
Okay.
I did through uni.
Okay. And so I believe that marketing is probably the top skill you can have as an entrepreneur. Because if you can't market and sell something, then you can have the best product in the world. So, what are your thoughts on that? And how did you use your marketing skills in your business?
Yeah, no, I definitely think that it is probably the skill to have as an entrepreneur, to come across as, well, I use the fake it till you make it quote a lot,
Yeah.
especially in those early days. Like, you may in your head go, oh, I don't know if I can do that, but, you know, just be confident. So then with the business, I decided that I wanted to take the route of marketing so that people could actually see and hear how many, I guess, milk cartons or laundry detergent bottles go
Mhm.
into something. I try at the moment we're in an expansion, but um, like prior to just a few weeks ago, showing people how it was made, like the full stages, so that when I said it was recycled, you could go onto my website or my social media platforms and go, oh, it actually is. And it's one reason why we don't add any color to it, is so that if you buy a small item, you can take it to a big grocery store and line it up against, you know, cold power or Omo or some bleach and
Mhm.
go, they are the same colors. Um, so definitely with the marketing was trying to bring our customers on the journey with us and show them that by spending money with us, they were actually, saving so many cubic meters from landfill, or, they were saving this amount of electricity. And taking them on that sort of journey in the marketing rather than just being like, this is a table, it seats 4 people, as an example.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's it. It's like going to what the customer thinks and feels, and working from that. So I guess you get a lot of people that are believe in sustainability and recycling. Because not everybody is that keen on it. I think
Mm,
everyone's aware of it now, but there's some that really believe in it a lot more, like yourself. So I guess a lot of those people would be your target audience as well. And if they see how it's made, that it's the real deal, then they're much more likely to buy it, I guess. And someone's looking for a table that just, look for a table that they like the look of. They don't care what material it's made out
And we're starting to get a lot more people too that have outwardly told us, oh, I thought recycling didn't happen in Australia. So we've
of.
started
Mhm.
to get a few of those people that are now seeing that, you know, we are really recycling.
I was told by somebody that is like privately in that space. He said, "Don't bother throwing your plastic bottles in the recycling bin because they don't recycle them because they've got too many of them." I don't know if that's true or not, but have you heard anything about
Well,
that?
I'm not 100% sure if it's true, but I will tell it this, that when we first started and we just wanted to buy a ton of plastic, it was better for the people to actually, send it overseas than to actually sell us a ton of plastic. So it was very much an eye-opener of what is portrayed and then sometimes actually what is happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. So, well, at least people, like yourself in the space are doing something good, and more stuff is being recycled, I guess. So, like you said, there's real ups and downs, but tell us some more of some of the big failures or issues you had on your journey as well. And also, I understand you have children as well. So you're doing all this while you have a family and you're looking after three kids, isn't it?
Yes, crazy though, because it's my husband and I, we kind of do it all as a family. Like, we get the boys and they come down and they'll sort plastic into colours for us, and
awesome.
They're just in infant school, so at the moment it's still fun. Ask me in a few years when they're in high school. But yeah, like a few other things that have happened is because a lot of our plastic is pressed into sheets. So even just looking at the research and development around not letting the plastic stick to the metal. So we went through all different types of metal options. We even got to a point that if we put to make a 20 mil sheet, when the plastic was actually in its more liquidy form, it would just break the steel, which blew my mind because we use it for such, I'm going to say ridiculous products like, cutlery or, milk. And here I had bought a steel frame and it just pushed it out. So we had to, weld it all back together. So that was one of those moments where we're like, oh my goodness, are we ever going to find something that once we pull the sheet out, we're not going to spend a whole day trying to scrape down all this stuck plastic, because oh my goodness, does it stick. And so that was probably something just like resilience and just going, we will find an answer. And, as entrepreneurs, and because we're the thinkers and the dreamers as well, most of the time you can't actually find your answer on Google because you are doing something that is so new that Google doesn't have the answer, which is crazy because most of the time it does. And so you've just got to believe in yourself that, I always say we spent about 6 months just doing science experiments, just, changing tiny little things and going, yeah, that worked. No, it didn't. Okay, start from scratch again. But yeah, believe in yourself and be resilient, because that's what I tell myself.
Yeah, it's interesting because so many founders say like that's the key, resilience, being really resilient, because it can be a brutal journey, of ups and downs. And, one day you're crying, the next, you're elated. So you got to try and maintain a balance.
I give myself emotional whiplash.
Yeah, yes. It's funny. I had another guest, Liz Swigart, talking about mental whiplash, but I like that. Emotional whiplash definitely is another whiplash in the startup space. I think there's a lot of types of whiplashes, mental, emotional, and a whole lot of other stuff. All right, so what role do you believe innovation and new technologies could play in overcoming the current limitations of plastic cycling?
Oh, massive. So we've been, for example, just researching how many times we can actually recycle the same bit of plastic.
Because it breaks down every time, right? Every time you do it, it breaks down further. So you can only use it so many times. Mm-hmm.
So at the moment we've got it to about 12 times. So it's kind of that idea too that, say, for its first, second and third life, it could be used as a table leg. Then the next sorts of lives, it could be used as just a tabletop. And then it could move into an item that wasn't, going to hold anything. But there's some excellent advanced manufacturing going on that means that if we actually recycle our plastic to the point that it's too brittle that we couldn't use it, it can actually then get manufactured back into its original oil form and created into new plastic again, or I should say new plastic, which is one that I really believe in, because it means that where they're not digging out our natural reserves, we're actually recycling what we've already got, and then just, there'll always be a space for new plastic in terms of like definitely the hospital sector. That then if we're reusing our old plastic over and over again until it's too brittle, then it can be made into new plastic. It goes into, say, a surgical area. It gets thrown out, comes to us. It gets about, 10, 12 lives, and the process starts again. I feel that is a lot more of a sustainable way of using plastic than the current throw out, dig up some more.
Yeah, it sounds like, because I was going to say, what happens after the 11th or 12th time? So it would be, currently now it's dumped in as landfill or something after the 12th time.
Well, we send ours to Sydney to be processed into new plastic again.
Okay. So that is actually happening now, that process?
Yeah. Just on a smaller scale at the moment, but it's brilliant. It more comes down to demand and kind of looking at removing some red tape around what is classed as new plastic.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you can take it back to its original form and then make it again.
Yeah. Now, there's a lot of stuff in the news at the moment about microplastics being in everything we eat and consume, everything else in plastic bottles. When you recycle, are there less microplastics in the process, or what happens with that?
So I guess you probably class our factory as being full of microplastics, because we deal with the plastic that is like 5 mil in length or less. But then it goes onto a big sheet and is then compressed in 2.4 by 1.2 meters. But for us, when we're using it, we can all sweep up anything that's dropped and it goes straight through our process. So nothing actually goes to waste in our factory. So all our dust extractors, we just reuse that same plastic, which is just crazy to me because I've always worked in places that definitely had a waste stream.
Yeah, not a great place to work, I guess. And once again, I'm pretty ignorant about this area, but I guess my audience as well, they won't know that much. So plastics originally, are they made out of like a petrochemical solution? Or was that petrol used in the process?
Yeah, so there's two types. One, the predominant ones that we use are all oil-based.
Okay.
But then they add different additives, and that's why you actually can't just get plastics 1 to 6 and, melt them all together. So that's why we've actually got to sort them into their numbers. But one thing that really gets me is number 7. That is just a group of all different plastics. So we work with a few different number 7 plastics, but you cannot add them together at all. And I think that's a really big misconception and an education thing that really needs to change, is that like number 7 plastic can be quite useful. So for example, a number 7 is acrylic, and we can manufacture that no problem.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm thinking like if it's originally made from, petrol or petrochemical type of thing, then it's recycled. Like you're not using more and more petrol, because that's, obviously not the greatest substance, like when we're talking about green, etc. So I don't think we're ever going to get rid of plastics, But do you think in the future it could actually be made out of a different, more greener, originally like a more greener sort of chemical or something instead of petrochemical?
I'm not sure, only because I don't have too much of a chemical background. But I mean, the other like PLA that they're making, which is definitely a greener plastic. I think we've got great minds that could definitely make it a lot greener than what it is. Then we just get stuck at, the big corporates that definitely don't want these sorts of changes happening because they'll feel it.
Yeah, that's always the problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
We need more responsible corporates.
Well,
Right.
it's just the same as virgin plastic is connected to the oil price. So if that drops, the cost of plastic drops crazy. But for us in recycling, our prices stay the same because we've still got the collection, the washing, the sorting, the shredding all before we do something. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to advocate for, that plastic shouldn't actually be connected to the oil price because it just erodes what we've done with recycling, because at the end of the day, whatever people can afford, they'll go for. And if they can get it ridiculously cheap, then they'll go for the new product.
And that doesn't help the environment, obviously.
No.
All right. Look, in your experience, what's one commonly accepted piece of advice for entrepreneurs that you believe is actually misleading or incorrect?
I guess one of the things that I got told by a lot of people, that if I just make a really good product, they'll come.
Build it, they will come.
Yeah, and I tried that, and that didn't really happen. And I think we tell entrepreneurs, well, just go with it, and there'll be a market out there for you.
That's really bad advice.
Yeah, I know. Now I know. And I think, a lot comes down to you have to do more of that market research. But and my other one is actually talk to your target market, just not your family.
Yeah. So the good advice is talk to your target market, not your family, right?
Yes. Because they love what you do, or at least mine love what I do, but they're not really my target market. So
my mother said it's a great product. It must be. Like, I don't have to ask anyone else. She'd be honest with me. She's not biased.
So true. But now, I just come back to going to markets. Like, I can't believe that I thought that was a terrible idea, and how much it helped propel the business and talking to people face to face.
Yeah. I think it's brilliant, actually. It's brilliant. And I mean, obviously not all startups can do that. Depends. If you're at SaaS or software or whatever, but if you have some sort of product, I guess you can definitely do that. If it's B to, well, it doesn't have to be B2C. It could be B2B, but you're sort of testing the market anyway, because in the end, the customers are the people who are going to use it. So,
well, you never know what procurement officer's going to walk past either.
There you go.
Enjoying their coffee.
Markets? Where were these markets?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
I just did a couple in the vineyards. I did a couple in Newcastle. Did a bit around just to try and get different people. So the vineyard one was excellent because we got a lot of people from Sydney. So without having to go down there. And then the Newcastle one was a lot more just local people. So that was, great to test that market.
Fantastic. So what's next for Jess and your company?
Oh, well, at the moment we're going big guns. We've actually just brought on an investor, which we had a lot of people over the past 3 years that offered us money, but it came down to that I just held out, hoping that the person that was there that would come along would be that
The
I
right
felt
fit.
right. It's hard to explain. I guess, you
Yeah.
get that gut feeling and you go,
Yeah.
I don't
Intuition.
know.
It's the most important thing.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but the right person has come along. So we're actually increasing our production line, which is going to be incredible. So at the moment, we're like miniature of like 50 tons, whereas we're actually going to be changing. We'll be able to do 1.5 tons a day. So,
Wow.
yeah, and then we're getting a really big crusher that I'm so excited about. It's going to be great for anger management. And so it'll be able to take an adult chair and crush it up without having to
fun.
first cut it. Yeah.
That'll be
Actually,
fun.
I thought of one other good point for the listeners.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got a client that you just don't feel right about, feel free to break up with them.
Yeah.
So I was really scared to do this for this client, and I, just gritted my teeth and tried to work, but it just wasn't.
Yeah.
And I only did it last week. Anyway, I feel so free now.
Yeah, that's right. You've got to go with your, well, some say gut, I'd say intuition. And if it doesn't feel right, usually it's not right. And then you can end up, down the way, you can have heaps more problems that come up. Like you said, we don't have to be desperate to get clients, and you're obviously in a better position now. But still, it's not an easy journey to be, a startup and run a business. It is tough work, but you have, like you said, you have your freedom, like in a way that you're not working for somebody else, and there's so many good things, but it's a tough journey as well. And so, is there anything like you've got your family involved, which is great. So, and you've got your young children as well, and you're doing all this work. So, how do you maintain your well-being? Is there any particular things that you do, or exercise, good sleep, all that sort of thing?
I love exercising, going for a run. I've got 2 dogs, so they're a great motivator.
Yeah.
And I love reading, so I make sure that I read at least before I go to bed every single night, and I feel that just gives it's a bit of me time. And it's something that I really enjoy. It's not always business books. It can be, fiction, non-fiction, anything of what I'm feeling like. But I just feel it's that time also to make me slow down. I feel like, for me anyway, I'm either on a computer, my phone, something technical. So it's nice at the end of the day when I go, no, I'm going to just read some pages of my book, reset, and I'm ready to go.
Yeah, go analog. It's interesting. So I was listening to a podcast the other day, and I've always thought this as well. They were saying that I actually think it was the founder of the AI that Microsoft used. I just can't think of the names at the moment, but he was saying that in-person things are going to be so much more important and bigger in the future, because AI is going to do a whole lot of menial stuff and everything else, and then it's person to person that is going to be something that's more important and that more people want to do, which is great, because at the moment, like with social media and young people, for example, and even some older people, they're feeling really lonely because they do everything through a computer, and it's only really with personal interaction that it's a whole different feeling. And there's a lot of people out there that are quite lonely. But so reading, or putting your phone away, going for a walk, or just meeting up with people, they're the things that I think can really help us, away from the whole digital space. Sometimes I think we need to get a break from that digital space, because even me, sometimes I'm like, with the phone, it's like, I don't need to look at YouTube now. Like, just put it down. It's like, I don't need that dopamine hit. You know what I mean? To become a bit addictive.
Totally. Sometimes I found myself going, why did I pick it up? Like, I don't,
Yeah,
what?
yeah, yeah. And actually, there's a great documentary called I think it's called The Social Dilemma. I think it's on Netflix, made by some
Yes.
of the top people in the social media industry, and just saying how dangerous it is, and like turn off all your notifications, which I've done, but I think because I use YouTube, I have notifications on, but I've turned off Facebook and all of those, and I find it, constantly getting notifications. I don't know why we're talking about this, but it can drive you
No,
mad.
but
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, like you feel like you should be working 24 hours a day to make this business work, and
Mm.
you'll only end up with burnout. Like you need to be
Yeah.
able to find a few activities that remove you from the devices or even the workspace that you do all your work from to feel and reboot yourself. I think when I first started, I was like, yep, into it.
Yeah.
Whereas
So
now
many like that.
I know it's okay. I can have a break and it's okay.
Yeah, it's so important to, like, I've talked to so many people that have burnt out, and look, you can have stints where you work really hard, quite long hours, but you can't maintain that. And really, once your business or your startup, gets some traction, then you really got to work out. You have to have your work time and your own time. Like sometimes there might be a crisis or whatever, but you've got to maintain that balance, because long term, if you burn out and you lose your health, well, what's the use of anything really? That's the most important thing,
Yeah,
So,
no, definitely. And I think we can run into the trap because we're trying to build it ourselves.
and it's hard. It's
We're
really,
one man
really
band
hard.
for a while there.
Yeah.
Wearing multiple hats and things.
Yeah. So many hats. Like, you've got to be doing everything, and you're doing something, that's like a future vision as well, and people don't really understand it. So there's just so many things involved. But look, even though my startup did fail, I enjoyed the journey tremendously, and I learned so much, met wonderful people, and I can take all those skills and things from that, and then, use them into the future as well. So
yeah, I totally believe that, good or bad, I have turned into a much better person. I've learned so much more about myself, and just confident in what I believe in. And I feel that only having a startup can give you some of these skills.
absolutely, it's like learning things on steroids. You've got to know so many different things and deal with so many different things. So it's like really speed learning, I guess, and all the experience that you get. Well, look, it's been wonderful having you on the podcast, Jess, and you're doing some great things in the space, and wish you, all the best in your future, and with this new, investor you've got, and you're scaling up. So maybe we'll get you back in the future, and we can see how you've been going.
Yeah, no, that'd be wonderful. So if I can say anything about scaling up, it's still as hard as being a startup. So, there's just different challenges.
Yeah. And so if people want to buy your products or get in touch with you, how do they do that? I mean, we can leave stuff in the show notes, but do you have like a website or?
Yeah. So if they want to check out resourcefulliving.com.au or find us with Resourceful Living on Facebook or Instagram.
Great.
You can check out everything we're doing, and all emails lead to me. So you can drop me an email and say hello.
Okay, fantastic. Well, it was great having you on, and wishing you all the best into the future.
No, thank you so much, Paul, for having me. Really appreciate it.